So hello, I want to do another video about the Snowko matchup. This is a gameplay video, and this is a game which was the semifinals of the last Saturday's challenge. And I will show you some special corner cases I guess, how to approach the matchup. Let's see, this is game one. And whoops, if you saw my hand, it had, I think, an Arcanist, a Lightning Bolt, and maybe another Lightning Bolt, I'm not sure, and 4 lands, or 4 or 5 lands. And I looked this play up, and I know that he's probably playing either Control or Snowko or something like that. And I played him in the past, so I knew he's probably on something Controlish. So I mulliganed the first hand because it had a lot of lands, useless lightning bolts, and a good Arcanist, but this is not enough. My hand here is quite solid for a 6-card land hand, and I think we don't need the bolt. So I think I will bottom this and go from there. Like who's on the play? He's on the play. So I put down my Delver and see what happens from there. And well, he goes fetch land, maybe Astrolabe or cantrip. And now you have to look what he does. So he shuffles. So note, this is noted, right? Shuffles. Which can be a sign, but doesn't need to mean anything, but it's good to note that. So I go turn 1 Delver and pass, and now it kind of depends what he's going to do. Game 1 is kind of tough because you have a lot of dead cards in form of lightning bolts, and you don't have answers to Uro, especially the early Uros. So let's see what happens. He brainstorms, this is fine, shouldn't force here, even if it's a good brainstorm. So this is a good start for him because he can set up. And here I dazed because I have no strong follow-up play. And my hope was that he is a little bit stumbling on the lands. So the way he can remove the Delver is either by playing Abrupt Decay or Swords to Plowshares, right? So I think this is a bit of a gamble, but I want to make him stumble. If I knew I have an Arcanist for the next turn, I would not daze, but I'm probably drawing something. Yeah, you don't know what you draw, but I think this is a valid line. Also, when he's on the play, for the next turn, he is able to play around days. I mean, he could deploy Oko now, but and this would be kind of sad, but other than that, from now on, the cheap removal spells can play around days. Plus the Astrolabe in play makes his mana really smooth. So I dazed this. But this is kind of corner case dazing. So there is a force of negation. And this is an interesting ponder because if I take the force of negation, I'm kind of all in on the Delver, which I'm probably anyway because I went for the countering the Astrolabe. On the other hand, you can also shuffle this and hope for another threat, This is what my gut feeling would do here. Let's see what I did. Yeah, shuffled this, drew another cantrip. Whoops. So this was too fast, but he played probably his one-off carpet of flowers, which sucks because I don't want to lose my force this way. But I basically need to force this, especially in the early turns. Because I'm committing to mana screwing him, kind of, making him stumble, but this breaks him free from this plan. And in the future, he will only get more mana from it. You can let carpet resolve in the mid game. I mean, sometimes you always need to counter it, but I think there are situations where you don't need to. This is when he's kind of running low on cards anyway. When he has 2 or 3 cards and 3 or 4 lands, then you don't need to counter it because he will play these cards anyway at some point in the game. So the early carpets are dangerous, but in the mid game, they become weaker, I guess. Even though they make a lot of mana, and Uro can be a problem then, but it's a gamble. And I think you shouldn't force the mid to late game carpets. Okay, so he ponders. Yeah, I pitched a brainstorm here because I have all cantrips, nothing to put back. Maybe I could pitch the preordain. So his third land is drop, which indicates 2 things. He doesn't have other colors, I guess, or he wants to protect another color, but this is his land of choice and he opens himself up to wasteland. So this is a strong indication of him not having more lands. And I want to find a wasteland for that to keep him very restricted. So cantrip here, find a wasteland and an arcanist on top, which is kind of perfect. Waste him, attack. He cantrip shuffled, so he didn't find another land, which is perfect. Attack, play the Arcanist, and go from there. This is the easy part now, but the decision for this line was all set before, where I dazed the Astrolabe and forced the carpet. This was the real big decisions, and this is something where you have to really think about how the game is going to play out. And this can also fail when I daze the Astrolabe and he plays colored mana source, I guess, for swords. Then I lose my Delver, or he plays an Oko, which I need to force then. This has backfire potential, but I think it was correct. Play the Arcanist, and hopefully he has no removal for the Arcanist. Even if he does, then he goes to 6 from the Delver, and this is danger zone. Okay, so he scooped the cards up, I think because he didn't draw another cantrip and land. So this is quite a corner case scenario where you can mana screw him, and you have to look out for signs whether this plan is going to work or not. Because in other cases, you need to let stuff resolve when you think they have good mana and focus on their answers. Okay, so this was game 1. Let's see what happens. And when I win game 1, I feel pretty happy because after sideboarding, I think it gets a bit better for the Delver player. mainly because of the Sylvan library, the blasts, and the clothes. And he also gets stuff, but I think my sideboard stuff is better than his. By the way, it's sometimes very hard to figure out on which version they are on. And so you have to, if the game goes longer, you have to watch which special cards he plays, kind of. Is he on a stock Snowko list, or is there something else, like an Arse that indicates the Hull Breacher version? Teferi is something more controlish, I guess. I don't know. You have to keep also up with the strong control players of the format, like maybe Anorak does, what they play. Okay, game 2, this is a good hand. It has a bolt, which is meh, but this is something where you can answer the Plague Engineer, which is important. Sometimes Icefang Kotel, sometimes Leovold, sometimes there is Hull Breacher, and sometimes even an Arcanist. Okay, let's see what happens. This is has a turn to Arcanist, but if he has early removal for it, can suck. Okay, this Brainstorm probably needs to shuffle the bolt away and fix our hand a bit. No need to counter the Astrolabe because we have no indication to screw him over. And you should basically never counter the turn 1 Astrolabe with a force. Even Days is sometimes French. So he has white mana, and here he played a carpet. So this is an interesting spot. So what I was thinking, I want to protect the Arcanist. In this case, he has white mana, so his Swords to Plowshares is free. With another land, he can also play Abrupt Decay, or Assassin's Trophy, I guess. And I thought it's not likely to kind of screw his mana over. And you also have to think about how to restrict the carpet. So my list has a basic island and a basic mountain. And so this is a way to restrict the carpet. But sometimes the basic mountain then restricts yourself from casting spells, but you have to see what the brainstorm brings. I guess maybe I should have brainstormed in response, but let's see. No, I shouldn't brainstorm in response because then he gets a mana from carpet. But so I think there are more powerful stuff coming at you, and you need to force something else. But forcing carpet is a gamble which can also work. But I think in this case it's better to not force. So here, end of turn brainstorm, and this is quite good because we have two ways of winning. So we put away the bolt probably on the bottom, and I don't know, any land on top of this. So we fetch away the bolt, play out the Arcanist. This is our high value plan. And if he has a Swords to Plowshares, then we might force. Especially if he plays it on his turn, because we have two forces to protect. This will set us back 2 cards, but if we connect once with the Arcanist, we are up 1 card again, so we are -1, and we have the elemental tokens. So not great if we have to force twice, but we have to pressure them somehow. Okay, let's see what happens. Bolt on the bottom. Yeah, no. Yeah, I guess. And now this is kind of sad to fetch a red source here, because then we cannot play Clothes easily, but we don't have our Clothes, and we have only red spells here. So this is our kind of an not really all-in plan, but it is a very forced game plan. And in this game plan, we only play our red spells, protect them, and hope to cross the finish line. Yeah, basic mountain because of the carpet. It's also good against back to basics, I guess, but this is not very common for them to play. Okay, let's see what they do. Now they have all their color. Add nothing because they don't know what they find of the brainstorm, but we don't counter this. This is too weak of a play. But they obviously want to find something. They don't have a strong play set up yet. So here's a red land. Keep that in mind. Maybe it's his only land, but still, this can indicate a pyroblast. So a blue mana. Oops, stop it. Oh, missed. Okay, so what happens here? He plowed the Arcanist, and we could have forced it, but he had red mana opener, and I was in fear of pyroblast, and I don't want to force 2 times. So I decided against it because we have a backup threat, and if he wouldn't have played the Arcanist, I have 2 forces to protect my backup threat, which can run away with the game with the cantrips I have. But after his Swords to Plowshares, he played the Dreadhorde Arcanist, which I was not expecting. I was expecting more of a traditional Snowko shell, and I was not seeing this coming before the game, in game 1. So now I lost 1 force, which is kind of sad because we had the bolt and we shuffled it away. And now we play the Pyromancer and the Cantrip, and this is our all-in plan now because we are down a card and our mana is not the best, but finding another Pyromancer is great because even if this one dies, we have something left and another Pyromancer for the next turn. So he shuffled off his Ponder. You saw it on the right for a short time. And this is kind of desperate. So he probably has a weak hand or no answer to Pyromancer. Oh, he does. He has a plow. But I have a backup Pyromancer, right? Which I will play and play a cantrip post combat. And yeah, you cannot see what I did bottom, but I think I will bottom both as we cannot cast the library. Founder's Force, which is a blue card, I guess. Yeah, Brainstorm is kind of weak. We counter the answer to the Pyromancer here. And he's kind of flooding. This is something what happens sometimes with Carpet. Because they still want to make their land drops and with Brainstorm. So this is an additional land, I guess. And so he's kind of flooded. 5 lands and a Carpet versus our 3 lands. This is virtual card advantage, I guess. He has 2 cards and he doesn't do anything. So what does he have then? He doesn't have removal spells. He doesn't have Oko or Uro. So he pretty much has a Pyroblast, right? This is the only choice. Maybe something fringe like a Veil of Summer or Flusterstorm. Yeah, everything else he would have casted. Maybe a Terminus. Okay, we are still going to cantrip anyway. I mean, we have 4 blue cards now, 2 forces, but we want more tokens. We search for a blue card. Yeah, cloth, this is something we need to bottom here. This is unlucky because now we don't have the possibility to force 2 times, but we want more tokens. And this is something where I was wondering if he has the Pyroblast. I think he would have forced Pyroblasted 1 cantrip, I guess. So this makes me really curious. Maybe more lands. So surgical. I think this was my backup plan, I guess, against Uro, because it's still dangerous if he finds one. So I wanted my surgical, and this can also do something against Mystic Sanctuary. Now he goes for the Mystic Sanctuary, and yeah, his hand is a Pyroblast, and I think I would have Pyroblasted a cantrip, but who knows. So his deck, if you can see, is the version which is 2 Uros, 2 Terminus, 2 Teferi, 2 Oko, 2 Narset, 2 Hullbreacher, 2 Arcanists, 2 Days Undoing, 2 Carpets. Always count this a little bit when you surgical. 1 back to basics, noted. Our version is okay versus back to basics, but you need to fetch your basic lands. And he boarded out his forces. This is also something to be aware. But I guess it's a good plan, even especially on the play. So now we have all the pressure in the world, and he really needs to find something. So here he cantrips, and he has a bad hand, so I need to force this, and I hardcast my force. I know he has the Pyroblast, but my plan is to force back and hope it's game over. But he drew a Flusterstorm, which has use now. But now it's not really game over, but nearly. He needs to find exactly Terminus and a Brainstorm, I think. So he can upkeep Terminus me. But other than that, it's game over. Yeah, fine. So Uro, which will not kill him, I think. Yeah, he goes to 1. I found the Pyroblast. I can Pyroblast 1 Uro to deny him a card, basically. Days undoing. So this is desperate, right? If he has Brainstorm and Terminus on top, this can do something, but this is desperate. Okay, yeah, nice guy. So this was my video on the Snowko matchup. One example, I guess. Maybe we will do more, but it all depends on how people like it and if people find my channel. But the most important thing, I think, is to sense weakness if possible. That's not always possible, but if there's something in their game plan It can be their mana, but they can also flood, or what else? I mean, the easy way is connecting with Arcanist, but also protecting young Pyromancer can be a good thing. Try to find the weak spot of their plan. And sometimes this is really complicated, because if they have a reasonable draw and you have a reasonable draw, this is really a dance back and forth. Do I deploy 2 threats, maybe run into a Terminus or a Dead of Winter? Can I afford this? Do I have a follow-up? Do I go all in? This is all things to consider, and you should really focus when you play against Snowko. To kind of guess what their plan is and what kind of answers they have, because sometimes you can tell in the way they fetch, in the way they tap their mana. This is something to keep in mind. Okay, then, okay, see you around.